Representing the country of Lithuania, Team GamingGear.eu took first place at the regional CIS championships at Moscow. They now qualify for a spot in Riot's international wildcard tournament and possibly a chance to compete in the Season 3 World Championships. GG.eu dominated the wildcard tournament by taking first place and only dropping one game to Pain Gaming, who were the favorites to win. Shall we get acquainted with the players from GamingGear.eu? In the top lane, NBS shows the capacity to carry hard on his own, as evident from his Tryndamere game against Immunity in the round-robin stage of the International Wildcard Qualifiers. During laning phase, he's particularly aggressive and is always looking to trade to deny CS or outright kill his opponents. However, that isn't to say he plays recklessly. Instead of overextending in lane, NBS would rather bait out junglers to stay and waste time as Alunir comes in for a counter gank, and the 2v2 trade typically results in a win for Gaming Gear. Aside from his Tryndamere pick, NBS's champion pool consists of Renekton, Zac, Shen, and Kennen. From the games played at Gamescom, we haven't observed any unusual pocket picks from NBS, but he may pull out an Elise in the future, since she was one of the champions used in their regional CIS championship round at EU LCS Moscow. Moving on to the jungle, Gaming Gear's Alunir functions as the team's focal point for early aggression. Instead of passively farming his own jungle, Alunir is one of Europe's more aggressive junglers, similar to Diamondprox in style. If he picks Lee Sin, look for Alunir to live in the enemy's jungle and make it his own. In the first game against Immunity in the semifinals, Immunity's jungler was rendered useless, since Alunir denied him buff and jungle camps at every opportunity. When it comes to helping his fellow laners, Alunir prefers to match counter ganks rather than actively ganking, since he naturally has the edge in a 2v2, considering he typically outpaces enemy junglers. Aside from Lee Sin, Alunir looks to most commonly play Jarvan with a rare Evelynn pick from time to time. In the mid lane, we have Mazarine, who is the backbone of the team. If Alunir carries to early game, then Mazarine is a primary factor in the late game. Known for his Orianna play, Mazarine often tends to pick late game scaling champions and thus has a relatively passive laning phase. However, if enemy laners do make critical mistakes, Mazarine will punish, engage, and typically come out on top of any trade. Once the mid-game hits, Mazarine roams off with Alunir, hoping to create an advantage for their team and seeks to head to their duo lane for 4v4 engagements. During teamfights, Mazarine rarely has positioning mistakes and often looks to eliminate carries in burst combos a la Orianna's Shockwave Dissonance or Gragas' Explosive Cast Burst. Aside from Orianna and Gragas, opponents should be wary of his Pocket Fizz pick. And finally, in the bot lane, we have the duo of Deadly Brother and Inspiro. Similar in personality to OGN's KT Rolster Bullet's Score and Mafa, this duo plays a rather passive lane. Instead of looking for first bloods or to create plays on their own, the two would rather have a farm lane and only look to engage in skirmishes if Alunir arrives for a gank. Although they usually lose their tower first in a 2v2 lane, Deadly Brother manages to acquire a decent amount of farm and can contribute to teamfights, since he often never has lapses in judgment concerning target selection and positioning. Although their most played lane was Sona and Twitch, look for additional carry picks such as Ashe and Quinn, and accompanying supports like Thresh and Zyra. So now we'll be taking a look at how Gaming Gear's champions interact with each other to create the preferred style of play. Their typical champion composition consists of Renekton, Jarvan, Orianna, Twitch, and Sona. Right off the bat, with the inclusion of Orianna, it's easy to understand that this is a team not centered around making picks around the map or split pushing to create global map pressure, but rather to pile in and engage 5v5 teamfights. What typically happens is that Jarvan will go ahead and use his EQ combo and trap a carry in his Cataclysm with Orianna's ball attached to him. If he happens to hit any more than 2 champions, Orianna will cast Shockwave for massive AoE damage. Renekton will slice and dice his way through the enemy frontline, acting as a damage sponge and sticking to the enemy marksmen and either killing them or forcing them out of teamfights. In the backline, Renekton and Jarvan both provide AoE armor shred, which synergizes with Twitch's spray and pray. 26% armor reduction from Renekton's empowered slice and dice, paired up with Jarvan's 35% armor reduction from Dragon Strike, allows Twitch to melt an entire team in seconds. Twitch can abuse his long range to spray and pray from a distance, while Sona can either use Crescendo to provide additional lockup in the middle lane, or to peel off champions who attempt to dive Twitch. Most of Gaming Gear's games included this style of 5v5 full-on engagements, but one round-robin game against Immunity offered some variation in playstyle. In this game, MBS chose Tryndamere for the purpose of abusing his superior split-pushing power. After an initial rough 6 levels against Lissandra, Tryndamere was able to dirty farm past tower, and against a mana-intensive champion, he was able to easily take down top tower and even secure kills against Lissandra. Meanwhile, around the map, Mazarine used Gragas to create picks utilizing explosive cask and Lee Sin's high mobility to lock down kills, so that if Immunity attempted to retaliate, they'd be facing 4v4s with a literal fed Gragas on Gaming Gear's side. During the 8 games GamingGear.eu played in the International Wildcard Tournament, they only invaded at level 1 twice. One of the times being a reactionary invade from seeing the enemy team passing the ward at mid lane into their jungle. From their performance at level 1, GG.eu seemed to be one of the most offensive teams at level 1. When they are on the red side, they have 0% invade rate at level 1 throughout the weekend. In Game 2 versus Team Immunity, GG.eu executed their first premeditated level 1 invade. GG.eu split up into 3 groups at level 1, with the top laner, ADC, and jungle going to the top lane, the mid laner taking the route to their blue side jungle, and the support going mid and warding in the usual spot. The support then catches up and meets with the mid laner, heading to the top lane tri-bush to group up with the rest of the team. The invade then continues with the bot lane duo then taking the route toward red, while the rest of the team walks behind the red buff and groups up with the duo at the brush near Wraiths. At that moment, the enemy Tryndamere walks towards the brush and gets hooked by Thresh's death sentence. Despite his efforts of getting away with Spinning Slash, GG.eu manages to pick up first blood. As more and more teams are getting qualified for the Season 3 World Championships, we are getting a chance to discover different teams from all over the world with different playstyles, like GG.eu, and we can't wait to see what they pull out in just a few weeks. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this around, and leave a comment down below about who you'd like to see at Worlds on October 4th. Thank you so much for watching!